The first question was on women participation in national movement. Women participation in national movement. Women participation in India's national movement was not merely symbolic but transformative. Discuss. Now here you will learn one thing. Now there it is similar question what we had written yesterday. It's saying the two words. It's similar like the up to what extent the women participation in India was not merely symbolic but transformative. Don't you think it's similar question? Right? So that means in one way we have to talk about the transformative role of women. Second, you have to talk about the symbolic role of women. Two things should be there. You can write either way. You can start by saying that the women participation in India in national movement was mere symbolic, as seen like this. Then you have to talk about women's participation. However, women participation, that word, I have to see today. You have not written this. Have you written? Women will have not written. You have not written. Okay. So women participation in India was transformative. So first of all, structuring of your answer should be two parts. Okay. Now, the introduction. India's national movement between 1857 and 1947 was broad-based, with women playing the key role. The transformative role of women. I first talked about positive. Here, political transformation led by the leaders like Annie Besant by forming organizations like the Home Rule League 1916. So here, organization name, year, name, first point should be your best point. Bringing everything there. So the all key thing I brought in the first point, saying that I know the topic. So I established the standard first point. Social transformation by leading reforms like the women education, Ramabai Ranade. Anti-British activity through revolutionary activities like Priti Lata Wadiyar. Then economic reform by promoting local handicraft, economic aspect. Political is done, social is done, economic. Tribal upliftment by Rani Gaidinliu. Cultural transformation by promoting indigenous language. I didn't have example, we have state. 6 point now. The important thing here is that I made a small map showing the important leaders. However, critics consider their contribution as symbolic due to, if you are missing this aspect, half marks gone. Okay, so limited leadership position, gender barrier, limited to upper caste educated. I am not explaining huge, like I explained the political, social, economic, those things with example. Here I just mentioned the limitation. As I told, limitation should be less, the other side should be less, the positive side should be more. This, defying the barrier of caste, gender, religion, women acted as torch bearer in the freedom movement. Conclusion. You know how I got this conclusion? See this, first question. Read it. Read this question. 2013 question. Defying the barrier of age, gender, religion, the Indian women became the torch bearer during the struggle of freedom in India. It is the question of UPSC itself. Basically, it's a very good line signifying or showing the importance of women despite the barriers were there. Right? So same thing I try to use here in my answer, to use whenever this is the template I have made. Whenever they are asking about women question, I am going to conclude by this, which is recognizing their limitations along with that telling about they were the torch bearer. So defying the barrier of caste, gender, religion, women acted as torch bearer in the freedom movement. This can be the contribution for can be used as conclusion if any question is asked on the women contribution. Clear? Next question. This was the second question. Several foreigners made India their homeland and participating in various movements. Analyze their role in the Indian struggle for freedom. Again, Indian freedom movement was inclusive, which involved contribution from the different section of society, including foreigners. Exactly what I gave the template followed. Next, Role of foreigner in Indian struggle for freedom by participating in different movements. Now here, mentioning the movement becomes important. Different movement, non-cooperation, civil disobedience and those things, because they have mentioned in the question itself by participating in the movements. So the role will be similar, political, but you have to talk about the movements. See, the first political contribution like support in formation of political organization like INC, George Hule, political mobilization within India and outside India like support in the British Parliament, social upliftment and constructive role like Stokes in NCM 1920. Then education role like Bethune colleges, Asiatic Society of India. Women empowerment and the participation like Annie Besant through the Home Rule League 1916. Tribal inclusion and social justice, Verrier Elwin. Then, however, their role had constraints like limited participation, vested interest, restriction by the British administration. Tackling these challenges, foreigners contributed in strengthening Indian cause for the freedom in 1947. That means, despite these limitations were there, still their contribution strengthened Indian. I am not saying here that that led to, don't write that. Please be aware that, don't write like the foreigners' contribution led to freedom in India. It was not. It's not complete fact. No one section, no one person, no one region led to the 1947. It was the collective effort which led India to the freedom in 1947. Every contribution has strengthened the movement. It was not one movement. It was the collective. It was the years of acts. So if you write here like the tackling these challenges, their contribution led to, it will defy the others' contribution. So be aware by using the word here. Don't write like that contributed in strengthening the cause, not led to the. Getting it? This is a very important point, and that much maturity, understanding is expected from aspirant of civil servant. Okay, so that much, these things are small thing, but we have to be careful. Any doubt, any contribution, any addition, anything you want to ask, you have written, you want to verify your point. Let's bring your point into the table. These are my points, my way of writing. Now, what you want to ask and other thing you can write.
In conclusion, we exclusively mention the name of foreigners and
See, the first thing is that in the body itself we should write the foreigner. If you're writing again, that would be the repetition, first of all. Remember, conclusion, again I told, you should not write something which is already written in the body in the conclusion. Have you mentioned any patient in the intro? In the body? Yes. Then again you are mentioning in the conclusion. Secondly is that when you will mention the person, you are narrowing down the conclusion. Here when I have written this is a broad-based conclusion, isn't it? It's not talking about one person. Again, if you bring the any patient, it shows that you are considering any patient as she was, don't deny that she was the key player in the freedom movement. But was she the only woman who contributed? No. So when you are concluding, you are keeping her as the sole torchbearer of the freedom movement. I get it. So no doubt there was contribution, but we should try to make our conclusion the broad as well as the it depends on the question. It should be the forward looking. Linking present, the foreigners' contribution should also be included in the celebration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Like that you can write. The second way of writing the conclusion. See, the question can be as symbolic whenever they frame this kind of question. They frame to criticize. Like they can ask, they can say that the contribution, the role of president in Indian democracy is not merely symbolic but also transformative. Basically, they are not asking us to tell that how the president becomes symbolic. They are trying to say that they are just the rubber stamp, or they are just like they have to follow what Prime Minister is saying. That is the limitation. Still, they have substantial power. because the executive power, judicial power, pardoning power, and those all power. So that way we have to write. Understood this kind of question? That means this question was very important because you will get very less mark here if you will write like this, because you completely misunderstood the question. No? Demand of the question is not met. Second question was okay. Second was direct question. No? Have you written? Every one of you have written the limitations. Have you written limitations of the?
To allied classes and second question.
Second, you didn't write.
Analyze. I did not know the analyze derivatives.
Analyze means what? Basically, analyze. If I say that analyze the class, how the this 50 days program is going. How you will analyze? You'll say that, okay, these are good, but these are the, I think some improvement, scope of improvement is there. That is analysis, na? Analyzing something means what? Analyzing means seeing that the positive aspect as well as the what are the still limitations are there which can be improved. Okay. I observe one thing is that you guys have written the foreigners role or the women role. First you gave the name of women and then started writing. That should not be written that way. Actually, when you write like that, you are limiting to that person. You are saying that the first point you wrote, let's say the women acted as transformative role, you are writing that Annie Besant, first point. Basically, your point is about Annie Besant. What about there are many who like Annie Besant who contributed in the political organization? But if I have written, how I have written? How I have written? Here I am writing the first question. Na? See, I am writing political transformation led by leaders like Annie Besant. That means this point can include many like Annie Besant. But if same thing I have started, Annie Besant led to political transformation, means I am talking about only about Annie Besant. Again, you are narrowing down your point. So, the name, the personality will substantiate your point. What was their contribution? Tell me. Political contribution was there. What is the example? Annie Besant ma'am is the example. Right? So, the example cannot be the point. Point should be substantiated by example. You are starting with the example. That way you, first of all, you can't write so many points then. Suppose you know 3 names only of foreigner, 3 points only you will be able to write. But here, without naming also, I can write so many points, because even if I don't know the name, I can write still. I see this. Cultural transformation I could write without naming. I don't know who did the cultural transformation. But still I can write point. Foreigner, I know, let's say I know only 2 points, 2 names. Still I can write the political and these aspects without naming also. That's a big learning. Please don't start with example. You are basically narrowing down your answer. Don't do that. Okay? Clear? Let's write next 2 questions. Please, from here, one thing we learned very important is this one. Don't start with example in the other questions. Second is that understand the question clearly. See, that was a unique question, but then we also understood the importance of analyze, discuss, and these all things. Okay, it's okay. Let's start the next 2 questions. We'll write. Here, the both questions were about the policies of Britishers. Actually, I made a mistake. I should have kept one in the first part, but it's okay. So, see, the Britishers' policies, whenever they are asking about the policies, one thing I have already explained is that their intention was more exploitative. Their intention to launch, whether it is infrastructural policy or social cultural policy, how to divide India, which can benefit their cause, how they can strengthen their colonial mindset and colonial agenda. So the policies were ultimately intended for that. But in the short term, they will say that it was intended for the welfare of India, development of India. Initially, moderates believed in it. They thought like, okay, English education is coming, scientific campus are getting developed, infrastructure is getting developed. So that's why the moderates used to believe that they are doing good, but they don't know the actual reality. So they need reform. So let's send some petitions so that they reform. That was the intention. But later on they realized like that these are exploitative policies. So point here is that the question nature, you will find that they will say to analyze the policies. Basically they want to ask you that what were the both side of the policies, because although unintentionally, British policies created some positive impact also. It was the education which enlightened Indian society at that point of time. We got aware about this humanism, rationality, and these all things. Education, growth, infrastructure, railway connected all India, south to north, east to west, connected. Telegraph, press, printing, these all things. Somehow it was brought by Britishers. Their policies contributed in strengthening these things, and that way it had created certain positive impacts also that we cannot deny. But the negative impact was more than the positive impact because of the fact that it led to the impoverishment of Indian society and the Indian economy, which was one of the developed, to become one of the poorest. Literacy also declined, and those all things happened. So the nature of question will try to ask you, are you aware about these two aspects or not? So now the thing is, when you're writing about the policies, you have to criticize them, but along with that, recognize few of the positive aspect of it. Okay. And in conclusion, we should not praise the Britishers. Never praise that they have done remarkable. Because of them only we became civilized. We were already civilized. It was them who divided India, right? So in conclusion, we should say criticize the Britishers. There is nothing harm. We say that in the conclusion we should not criticize, we should not say negative. No, you have to criticize them. Like they have done wrong for sure. So in conclusion, we should sound like, yes, we recognize that they are the one who colonized India, like that. Okay, so that should be the format in such kind of question if British policies are coming. Okay. Now let's see from the answer you can learn better. You can learn through the answers. Evaluate the policies of Lord Curzon and their long-term implication on national movement. Okay, so they have asked, see here, first of all, they have asked about the policies and long-term implication on the national movement. Remember the last word, national movement. Okay. See, Lord Curzon was the Viceroy of British India between 1899 to 1905, which brought various policies impacting India. Simple one only, give that period wala point. If you know, you can write. If you don't know, you can skip that and say that they brought many policies which impacted India. Now here they have asked to evaluate the policies. So before evaluation, I need to tell them now what is policy. What were the major policies? So I said here the major policies of Lord Curzon are these four are the major. Other were also there, but I know this four major like this Calcutta Corporation Act, Indian University Act, Bengal Partition we all know, and the Credit Corporation. Something was there. These are the major. Now here I gave some positive implications of these policies. I should have given this later, but in that flow I made this mistake. But still, it's okay. It won't harm because I am giving the negative implications also. So 3 points I gave. Cooperative formalization happened. Cultural heritage preservation because he established ASI. Agriculture growth because he focused on irrigation. Very general points, simple point. But because I don't have to focus more on the positive, what I have to focus is here. Long-term negative implications. I am first analyzing the implication, the policies. Where I am talking about the negative, fueled the communalism. Bengal partition, they divided such a way. West Bengal were more Bengalis, East Bengal Muslims, Hindu Bengalis, sorry, and language wise also they divided. That created the communalism in Indian society. Then weakening of corporation, because they brought this, they can't protest and those all things were there as the restriction on the student movement through the University Act. Now, long-term implication on the national movement fueled the nationalism in Indian Quit India movement 1942. So this part is important because they have specifically mentioned how it influenced the movements, right? So the movement, Quit India movement, revolutionary activities like the Anushindhan Samiti. Revolutionaries also happened after that. Then political unification of making movement broad-based. So impact on the again the movement, because now the Bengal also became the epicenter of the whole movement. So like that 3 point I gave for here. In the conclusion, Curzon policies reflected British intention of colonization with deep and long-term impacts in India. Criticizing the Curzon. I'm not talking about the positive. It's reflecting the intention of colonization of India within India, because it's British policies. Okay. Understand the question. It's saying that evaluate the policies of the Curzon. That's the first part. So here what I have done, policies of Curzon, positive implication, negative implication, positive, negative. First evaluated, then the second part they have asked long-term implications. Here I am giving the long-term implications separately. On the movement, these 3 points particularly on national movement. But the positive and negative implication of the Curzon policy may not be, but particularly on the movement. It can be the impact on the society, economy, anything. So the two parts are there, and that 2 part also should be divided into 3. The first part should be divided as the positive implication and negative implication. Please keep with you some other color pen. Whenever you are making any changes by seeing my answer, you should use the other pen. Okay, from next day, bring the black, green or red, whatever, so that you can evaluate by yourself. You can see the changes and you can make those, so that you can understand the what changes you have to make. In the PCS exam, they ask very general questions. They will ask like write the policies of Curzon, or they will ask what were the impacts. Simple. So you can write any impact. But here they specify the question. Here they have specified the implication on national movement. So now the student will start writing the impact, many impact. That will be wrong. They are not asking that thing. See, in this kind of question where you are getting some understanding about the answer writing, especially not meeting the demand of the question, that symbolic question, this question also, little complex question, small question but complex. In terms of understanding the demand of question, please put a star mark or highlight them, so that when you study, give more focus on these kind of questions, right? Because these kind of questions you are not able to get the demand of the question, and these are not straightforward questions, and you have to learn these kind of questions. Otherwise, your marks will reduce, and you won't even realize. When you write this, you will feel like I wrote it very nicely, but later on when it is get evaluated, you understand, okay, it's not there, and marks will come very less, right? And you won't even get your papers to understand that where you made the mistake. That's the worst part in this UPSC, is that in examination system, is that we won't get our copies, so we don't know like where our marks deducted. So that's why we have to work like this. Okay. Now, next question is examine critically various facets of economic policies in India, economic policies of Britishers in India, and in mid 18th century till independence. Okay, so the question was this. Now here it is asking that the facets of economic policies examine critically. That means you have to give the positive and negative. Okay, but the more negative you will give, for sure, because it is British policies. Then the British India for mid 18th century till independence. So what I did is that first I recognize economic policies were a key component of British colonization strategy in India with wide facets. The phases, I remember something, so I mentioned it. Phases, not facets. So mid 18th century till 1947. I missed. That's 1947. Okay. Various facets of economic policies. Land revenue, we all know. Like there were Mahalwadi, Zamindari, Raitwadi at different region. Okay. Then land revenue policy, one-way free trade they were giving. British export to India is free, but Indian export to outside was heavily charged. That was one of the policy. Then licensing policy to start the new, like Factories Act, monetary exchange rate policy to support British trade, drain of wealth, Dadabhai Nauroji highlighted, no technical education, etc. However, such policies brought few positive like infrastructure development, capital flow, etc. I give very less importance to this intentionally. And also it was 10 marker. So I emphasize more on the negative. Then overall British policy made India impoverished, draining $45 trillion wealth between 1750 to 1939 as per the Utsa Patnaik, JNU professor. These I have mug up. I wrote somewhere in my short notes. Whenever they ask about the economic policy, British impact on the India, I write this. Clear? Second question was fine. It was asking just what it was asking? Examine their policies. So British economic policy, we know that the land. See again how to think about the policies. Policies related to economy, this agriculture. Policies related to the manufacturing. Policies related to the services. Like that you can think. Infrastructure policy. Whatever you read in economy, what you read? You read about the primary sector. You read about the secondary sector. You read about the tertiary sector. You read about infrastructure. You read about the monetary policy. You read about the fiscal policy. So that angle you can create whenever they are asking about the economic policies. If they ask social policy, policy of education, policy towards the common, religion, policy towards the social reform, policy towards the health, policy towards the poverty alleviation, social policies. Right? So like that, we think that's not a big thing for you now because you got it. So economic policy you understood, you have to think like that. Okay? Okay. So that was it for today's class. Today was very much learning for us in terms of answer writing. The question nature was such that we need to understand the demand of the question, and we have struggled that today. Okay, so to reflect on those questions where you have struggled in terms of addressing the demand of the question. Now see, the points are not becoming a problem. Problem is becoming understanding the question and writing as per the demand of the question. Now you are able to generate the points, something. But now, are you able to write as per the demand of the question? This is the most difficult task people students face, including me sometimes. Now, but student aspirant don't realize it. They think like the drawing map, writing data, writing committee name, writing more points, good intro, quotes. This is the answer writing according to them. This is not answer writing. Answer writing, this is just one part. This can be learned very easily. In 3 days you understood that. If you have the framework for all topics, you can write some work. And if you revise those topics, you can write best answers. Yes or no? Right? You are not yet revised. When you revise art and culture, modern history, imagine how you will write these answers. Very nicely you can write. But if you revise also, if you know the framework also, but if you don't understand the demand of the question also, despite you will write, you won't get marks. And that is the part which is not focused. And that is where you can learn only when you are seeing this kind of thing. Otherwise, and this explanation is also very important. If I won't explain just to give this to you, you won't understand. Like what was the mentality, why I kept like this, why I am writing implications separately, why I have divided 2 parts. These all things you can only get if you are getting the explanation along with the answer which is written here only. Right? So that is the uniqueness for this. Okay. Thank you for today's class. We'll meet in tomorrow's class. Tomorrow will be the post-independence India. Okay. So post-independence India, do one thing, just one thing. Ask the ChatGPT, tell that to give the list of major political, economic events and the security related political, economic and security events, significant events took place between 1947 till 2014, because recent one you know, beyond that you know easily. So it will give the major issues like 1971 war, 1965 war, right, emergency, right. These chronology, try to understand what were the major events happen. So if you understand this political, economic, or separately also you can ask, like what are the political events, what were the security events, what were the economic events happen. If in the foreign policy, 4. If you will do this 4 aspect, na, you will get the whole idea of post-independence, what happened. Just to do this exercise, it will take hardly half an hour and read that. Okay, no other preparation is not required, you will be able to write. Okay, because most of the dimension will be around this political dimension, social, economic, social, 3, then security 4, foreign policy 5. One aspect you can add is that the environmental aspect, like Chipko movement, those movements are there, na, some significant, and yeah, that one is over. Enough. Okay, ask ChatGPT, it will give.